think we would all agree that it is a basic human right to have a decent place to call home, a neighbourhood where you feel safe, an opportunity to earn a decent living, access to healthcare and a clean environment. And if people have these things, they can thrive, and together people form the communities that can then flourish. Empowering people to take decisions locally, and these communities will make choices that lift up the people in those communities and protect their local environment. But under the last government, the ability for those communities to take those decisions have been made harder, slashing their resources and forcing communities to compete with each other, setting towns against each other in bidding wars with short-term race-to-the-bottom policies. Liberal Democrats have been disappointed that this Labour government is planning to take decisions away from communities by removing powers for local authorities to have a say in planning through the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, and we're worried about how proposals for local government reorganisation may move decisions on local services further away from people and their neighbourhoods. The proposals to provide 3-year settlements for councils is reassuring, but only if the funding levels covers the true costs of providing the services people need, not knowing 3 years out that the council is going to be forced to reduce their services. That's not helpful. Although the 2025-26 settlement offered some additional funding in many councils, particularly those with levels of high social care spending, the Labour government's job tax increasing employers' national insurance contribution was not fully reimbursed for those councils. The same was true for packages for fire authorities, where the problem was particularly problematic, where high levels of on-call firefighters are on the payroll, meaning that they were seriously disadvantaged. Turning to the mission-critical neighbourhoods, it's absolutely right that there's a laser focus, not Labour focus, although I appreciate there's a Labour focus, on drawing them up and into every part of a society, not just to improve their lives, but because if they are economically active, healthy and safe, the rest of us benefit too. But I want to focus on 2 main issues for communities: housing and transport. We all know that for years people around the country, not just in these neighbourhoods, have given up. They've given up on the chance of owning a home or even renting a decent place to call home. They've given up on the opportunity to bring up children and have a meaningful career. In many rural areas, which may not make up the most deprived areas, there are pockets of extreme poverty, and they are completely forgotten. Farmers whose children underperform in schools, they're loaned their school uniform, and they live in homes that have not been updated for 60 years.
On that point, my honourable friend,
of course.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way. She talked about communities being sort of overlooked because they're contained within wealthier communities. And my constituency of Carshire and Wallington is in the outer London borough of Sutton, which by London standards is on the wealthier end. But we have 2 distinct communities, St Helier and Roundshaw, and these estates absolutely need more support, but they consistently get overlooked because of the way local government funding works. First of all, it's on a borough-wide basis, and so when you add up the deprivation scores, they're not entitled to much from those formulas. But secondly, the indices we use are extremely outdated and have failed to take account the true cost of housing. Now, housing prices in London and South East have skyrocketed over the last 10 years, and the indices are not taking this into account, which means that the average Londoner now is actually worse off than the average person in many other regions of the country once you take housing costs into account. So does she agree with me that whatever reforms we do to try and target better resource at disadvantaged communities, it must look at local government funding for this and take housing properly into account?
Vicky Slade.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and he's absolutely right. It's those micro communities within communities that look wealthy on the outside, and I'm going to come on to some local example. In rural and coastal areas, employment opportunities are incredibly limited, as already referenced from the honourable member from, I think it's Thanet, with seasonal jobs in limited sectors of agriculture and hospitality. And the homes have been snapped up by those fortunate enough to own 2 or more properties, like the members from various areas of Cornwall have particularly referenced. This is why Liberal Democrats want to see the loophole closed on holiday lets to ensure that they pay council tax, and why we want to see action in the Planning and Infrastructure Bill on introducing a separate planning use for both holiday lets and second homes, so we can secure the homes that we need for our teachers, carers, police officers, and how farmers are better able to use their assets on their properties to support agricultural workers, so we can actually provide food security. The government's move away from rural services grant has been devastating for so many communities and needs to be urgently rethought. As stated by the Dorset Community Foundation last year in their Hidden Dorset report, on the face of it, Dorset is a beautiful, vibrant county, but scratch the surface and underneath there are areas that are among the most deprived in the UK. There are 17,100 children in Dorset living in absolute poverty, not relative, absolute poverty. And I'm sure my honourable friend from Bournemouth East will know where some of those communities are. In a place that is not considered within the mission critical areas. The plan for 1.5 million homes is laudable, but the government must refocus on having the right homes in the right places. The lack of focus on social homes is deeply disappointing, especially for a Labour government, and I would encourage the Minister to go back to the department and commit to at least 150,000 homes for social rent, as committed to by the Liberal Democrats. We already have, though, a large number of homes lying empty, 1.2 million of them, and the Liberal Democrats have heard little about what's being done to bring them back into use. Today's announcement on transport is great news for some communities, but many are still being forgotten. People living in most of the South West, which it would appear from the latest announcement that the South West stops at Bristol, have no access to trains, and where they do have a bus, it only comes a couple of times a day. How exactly are those who cannot afford a private car supposed to get to work? And for those aged 16 plus, they can't get to school or college. One constituent in Bear Regis in my area of Mid-Dorset and North Poole had to give up an apprenticeship because there was simply no way to get there. Families living on minimum wage cannot spare the budget to pay for driving lessons, which of course you can't get a driving test either, or pay insurance that can run into thousands of pounds. So will the government correct the injustice created when the age of participation was increased and ensure that home-to-school transport is funded to 18, and accept Lib Dem proposals to create a young person's bus card giving under 25 significant discounts on bus fares? For the rural areas most in need of these the rural areas are those most in need of a bus fare cap, so we are hoping that this is going to be extended, as journeys are often long and require 2 or more routes to be used, not just in England, but across the United Kingdom, including rural Wales, where oddly a project between Oxford and Cambridge was badged as an England and Wales project, potentially costing Wales millions of pounds. Finally, I want to align myself with the comments made by my honourable friend and neighbour from Bournemouth East. We must eradicate child poverty. I share the frustrations of others that the strategy has been delayed, and I hope that we're going to hear that this means we will have a much more meaningful document which includes the removal of the 2-child benefit cap. These children have done nothing to find themselves in the position of having multiple siblings, and I hope that the government will grasp the nettle and deliver real change for our forgotten neighbourhoods and our next generation.